Yo, what the heck? You yawning on my dime? Huh?
Wait, me?
Yeah.
Dude, you
I saw
talking
that.
to me?
Was that you?
No. I
that
saw
you?
that.
That was definitely Wyatt.
I can't, dude. You
It
were
was
yawning
Wyatt.
during Bren's intro?
No. I never would. I have respect for Bren's intros.
Okay, these
No, that's
guys,
egregious performance from Joshua. Bren, please continue. Please continue your intro. Uninterrupted.
Welcome to Plat Chat VALORANT, episode 27. Thanks for
Carry on.
Thanks for joining us. As you can see, we've got a new studio, new space. It's pretty empty at the moment. It's bare bones, but we're going to fill it up over time. Yeah. Right now, we've just got Overwatch merch and the Wyatt Weekly Awards and a can of popcorn. What is that?
That used to be in the background.
There's no popcorn in it,
No
though.
popcorn.
No, it's like...
Was it a
made
special
of,
box of popcorn? Why is it? Why hold on to it?
It's not a box of Avast. It's a porcelain vase. I think you're supposed to put a plant in there, but why a plant would want to eat popcorn? I don't know.
Yeah, and of course we couldn't exclude our Team Fortress 2 audience. That's why we've included these.
There's a huge overlap in demographic between Plat Chat VALORANT and Team Fortress 2 actively following the game. It's a very big overlap.
Yeah, well, a lot of news on the horizon, at least, for this episode, so we can discuss it. By the way, as well, if any of you guys have any artists that you want us to feature on the show in terms of, like, on our back wall, write a comment.
That made it look like I was highlighting Wyatt. I was trying to highlight the artwork on the back, and I just kind of did jazz hands towards
Any
Wyatt.
tattoo artists
we made
as
him.
well. We could put them on Wyatt. If you have any tattoo artists, that could be that could add to the
Little
studio.
forehead cam.
Yeah. We can make you look like Phoenix.
How opposed are you to face
Jett
tattoos
or something?
You get like a viper face tattoo.
Sure, yeah.
Mask. What?
How opposed are you to face tattoos?
Well,
You're not at all opposed to face tattoos.
You don't care? You don't care about face tattoos, Wyatt? In any way?
You're not slightly... So if we came to you and said, hey, we've got a cool face tattoo, you would not be opposed whatsoever.
oh, I mean, I don't know. What is it?
What? You're so
A permanent mark upon your visage.
I mean, I wouldn't get viper on my face, but I don't know.
But if it was cool enough, you wouldn't be opposed.
Yeah, if it was like cool enough, like minimal, you know? Like
So minimal it doesn't
face
exist.
tattoo. A minimal
like-
face tattoo.
yeah, something minimal.
I don't think they exist.
I've just, yeah,
You can get some small stuff.
Yeah, you get like some small,
Small doesn't mean minimal,
small,
though.
fine line work. You know what I mean?
Like veins or something.
No, not like
What?
veins.
Yeah, like this.
I just look
That's
mad
it, I mean-
all the time.
Is that minimal? Barbed
No.
wire in your hairline?
No,
God,
and definitely
I
the
need
one
to-
on the one on the left is appalling.
I need to get some barbed wire on my
ZZ
hairline.
Loser wouldn't get that.
If I should get some like sticky tape or something in my hairline so it stops going backwards. Just hold it down.
I mean, the barbed wire, I don't know what purpose that would serve. Is it trying to are you signifying something? Like there's no hair beyond this point? Is that what the barbed wire?
I don't think no small animals allowed in my hair.
I don't think that's barbed wire.
It absolutely is.
What are you talking about, Bren?
Is it like stitches? He's trying to like imply that it's
No,
like
that's barbed
brains?
wire.
Oh,
Is
You know
it
what's
taken out? You sure?
No, that's definitely barbed wire because because how barbed wire is. You can tell by just the look of it.
that is
They're
definitely barbed wire because of how barbed wire is.
Because how it look, I don't know. It looks like barbed wire. It doesn't look like stitches. Stitches look different.
Yeah, I've never really looked at Post Malone's forehead that much, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I have not explained why I am here in person as well. I've just arrived at the set, just violating all sorts of COVID guidelines, and I'm here. No, we've moved to Austin, and so I'm now bubbling with them because I own the building next. Oh no, I don't own the building.
He owns
I don't,
it. He's a
I don't own
millionaire.
anything.
Landowner.
I'm not
okay.
a landowner. But we rented two buildings next to each other, so I am now able to participate
In person, in the podcast. Pretty
Whereas
sick, actually.
Avast is miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But well, listen,
told
he
you
has
guys
the
to come to
option.
Dallas.
I
Told
told
you guys
him.
to come to Dallas.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Now that we're in a more central location, we're probably going to be able to get, when the world opens up again, people in person, hopefully to come down. We'll make you drive down Avast. What is it, only like 4 hours?
4 hours to Austin. Why can't we meet in the middle in some like a bumfuck town? You know, like we can go to like Odessa, Texas, or something. Actually, I don't know where Odessa is located.
I'm sure
I
they
don't know
have
if that's
great
actually the right
Google
geography.
Fiber in Odessa.
But we could
Go
find
our
somewhere
Odessa
and do a
listeners.
collab
Not gonna be
there.
Happy with that.
Let's get the podcast started, huh?
Heck yeah.
We're not actually talk about the topics.
No.
Is this released? Valorant Episode 2, Act 1? This is how out of the loop
Heck
I am.
yeah.
in terms of
Yes,
the
it
actual
started.
stuff.
Well, it doesn't. It starts on the 12th.
Yeah,
and
okay.
so today's the
Tomorrow.
11th.
I didn't know if. Yeah, I did. Well, yeah. So, yes. So when we release this episode tomorrow,
What is
my
this guy
brain
saying?
broke for a second because I keep thinking about the episodes in terms. Okay, forget about it. Anyway, it's releasing tomorrow. Yoru comes with it, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already playable now in like some form though, right? I've
Well,
seen
in some
people playing
regions.
Yoru.
No,
Yoru.
that was like
that was the capture event.
If you were in, if you're an elite content creator, you got
yes.
access.
Right.
So Wyatt,
I've been
since you were
moving,
the
so I
head
haven't
coach-
really understood. I've just been trying to keep up with everything on Reddit, and I was like scrolling through streams last night, wondering why no one was playing Yoru, and I realized it must not be available.
No, it was just for the release, like special events. Like Wyatt got they reached out to Wyatt because they know he's the new head coach of Fnatic, so
Sure.
they know that
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
going to be.
They
he got
released the
access.
cinematic.
They did.
Yeah.
Which I didn't watch.
Do you want to watch it now?
Yeah, I'd like to
Now's a
watch
good
it now.
time to react to it. Actually,
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I like about the cinematics? Well, I don't want to spoil anything for. So I don't know
Oh,
if
here
I
it
want to
is.
say it.
Okay,
Oh,
just
here we
wait.
go.
Everyone, let's wait to make our YouTuber faces.
Yeah.
What?
yeah. It's I mean, you're missing out on all the audio involved, but
Yeah.
you know,
You get
maybe
to-
we can do some sound effects.
Phoenix just says some of his in-game lines.
Okay,
Yeah,
so here
I know
we'll start
that.
doing. Then we can
there's
start doing
something.
sound effects here.
Yeah.
We could be like they're walking.
Oh yeah, little footsteps. These kind of
And then there's
cinematics
the
are very
reload.
important though for building the world. If you want your game to be not just large with, I guess, competitive players, but with a lot of the casual player base as well, you need these world building.
I actually really
Things.
like the art style for the cinematics. I have to say, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Okay.
is really cool. What I am also interested in as well is that, well, Cypher's now dead, isn't he?
Yeah,
is
that's
that canon?
That's what I was gonna bring up. 3 of the agents in this one cinematic alone die.
Yeah, but the
I
thing
mean,
is
are they
that
just-
like, do
is
they
that it?
treat Valorant as like? Is it like League, where like in the League cinematics, right? Don't the League heroes die, but they get revived because of the whole like it's like a summoner's rift and they summon them back to battle. Maybe these guys are locked in an eternal cycle of undeath.
Right,
As the
just
Valorant
As soon as the
agents.
round resets, they just come
Yeah.
back to life again.
I mean that's the weird thing about trying to actually tie lore to anything you do in the game is that it's nonsense. So if you actually
Well, as
try
long
and
as you never
explain,
kill
oh
them.
yeah, they come back to life at the beginning of every round because they are actually, I don't know, Sisyphean mortals trapped in an endless cycle by the gods, it just becomes stupid. So I don't know. They're releasing agents so quickly though. What was their plan for agents? 3 a year or something?
It was
6
more
a
than
year,
3
I
years.
think,
6 a year. They can afford to kill
Yeah.
off 3 every cinematic. They can actually start expunging people en masse.
Maybe that's how they balance the game from now on.
Yeah, maybe just population.
Cinematic
Like,
and
that's
just-
what it is.
Just kill off the agents that are
They
too
just
problematic.
kill
you know?
Raze in a cinematic. She's just out of the game now. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, they just killed
couldn't balance
Jett.
her. Yeah, Jet's no longer in the
Well,
game.
then,
if
so
you
it
try
could
to
be like
watch.
wrestling where they bring them back. They were never really dead, you know? It's like the Undertaker, where like in WWE, where like they kill them off and then they come back later. That could be Valorant's sort of agent
Yeah.
pool.
Yeah.
But we'll just need more of the lore.
I'm
to
sorry,
really
the ending
find
there,
out.
where he pulls out the flip comb and just pulls it back.
Yeah.
That's the corniest
Dude,
shit I've ever seen.
I
Of
wish
course
that
it
was
is.
me.
Of
Yeah.
course it is.
Wow.
Our
it's-
flip combs corny? I don't think
It's
so.
kind of
I
cool.
thought it was
though.
it's corny
I
because
like
it's,
it.
it's so
cool.
tropey. You know?
It is, yeah.
It's like
Oh,
a
it is tropey,
fucking cool
yeah.
guy, not looking at this explosion. You know, like pull back the hair. I don't know. It is cool though. You need these kind of like you need these cinematics to capture a lot of the casual audience. That was a cool cinematic. I appreciate the sound effects as well, Avast.
Yeah, you know, we could do our own sound effects in house. We could start a second studio outside of podcasting. It's only at-home sound effects for
The
Valorant
Plat Chat
cinematics.
Foley Studio.
Yeah, be hooked on phonics. Plat Chat.
What are we looking at now?
I actually don't even know what this is.
I don't even know what this is either.
I've
but-
never
This is
seen
the
this video.
Yoru trailer.
This is the
Oh, this
this is the official Yoru trailer.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I've not seen this before.
Nice.
As well.
Yeah, I haven't seen this video either.
He is a fundamentally cool. I mean, not in terms of like the design of the agent himself, but in terms of like the design of his abilities and the theme and stuff, and the whole mask and ripping through dimensions and stuff.
Yeah,
it's good.
Ashes are so cool. This is the kind of agent as well that it's very creative in just what he is and his abilities. But it's in that creativity that will get people to come back to playing the game as well. Like, this is the kind of agent that people are going to want to come back and experiment with if they haven't been playing for a bit.
Yeah,
because it's just so
I just want to point
interesting.
out, by the way, that when we first discussed the teaser for Yoru, I said, what if they make he can be invisible? And you said, there's no way that would ever happen.
Okay, all right, Avast.
I don't think that happened.
Just want to point that out.
Okay, yeah, they definitely did go bonkers. They went further with the ult than I thought they would.
Yeah.
At the same time, I really don't believe they're going to add an agent that has it on like cooldown to the game. You know?
No.
Like,
I mean, they made an ultimate at least, and it takes some time to exit it. So like they've at least done something to balance it versus just putting it a cooldown ability.
Yeah, so, I mean, people are going to bring up Reyna here as well, but that is just not the same whatsoever.
Yeah, well, people keep saying that, and I keep getting mad. It's just not the same thing.
It's not even slightly the same. Yes. It's not similar whatsoever.
What else? Just before we fully move on to the topic of Yoru as the agent discussion, but is there anything else of note in this Episode 2 Act 1 release?
Well, we don't know yet is the answer to that.
Well, it's longer. It's longer than, or is it shorter than the previous one? I think it's shorter.
Well, it's one or the other.
By 3 weeks.
It's definitely longer or shorter.
When I was looking at the dates, I was like, I'm pretty sure it was like 3 weeks shorter than Act through one.
Well, 2020 was a leap year, so they need to make it shorter this year anyway. So they're probably
that makes sense. So chronologically, based off the linear progression of time, it all checks out.
The only other thing that I saw was released is the Brimstone and Omen changes. Those are
those are actually pretty interesting changes, especially Brimstone. Brimstone actually looks kind of PogChamp. Wait, not PogChamp. I mean,
Komodo
the other
hype.
thing. Komodo hype.
Yeah.
Good save.
Brimstone, yeah. I mean, the first thing you look at is, of course, the stim pack. You can just throw it down immediately now. But aside from that, the smokes last 5 seconds longer.
And it's
which is crazy.
Bigger.
I mean,
cheaper.
They're thicker too.
Yeah.
What I'm reading.
They're thicker.
I didn't see they're thicker.
No, I was thinking of range, not the thickness. Never mind. I was thinking of the range. They increased the range.
They made an update to Brimstone's model. He's thick now.
Just a bunch of Brimstone buffs, essentially.
Yes.
Some interesting ones though. I think the stim pack will now actually get used. I know that this is like a moron level take, but when it's a quick cast, it's the same as like a jet smoke, right? And you see so many people use jet smoke in the middle of fights to help them, to set them up at the beginning. If you're a Brimstone and you're not throwing out a quick cast stim pack, not every time, right? Sure, but regularly to help your team or to help yourself, I feel like you're missing a trick at that point. There's much less time wasted in terms of casting it. It could actually be useful now.
I mean, I don't think there's any downside. It doesn't show up for enemies.
Well, especially if you're doing pistol rounds. I feel like stim pack is actually going to be kind of nasty when you're doing like a rush with pistols. Yeah. I feel like you kind of just you zerg into them with the stim pack as the instacast, and you kind of maybe kill someone even on like when you're on an eco round and they have rifles.
Yeah, I could see it actually being used and being impactful now, whereas it never was before. And I think the smoke change is exactly what he needed as well. A slightly larger range, sure, but I don't think that was necessarily needed. But like there had to be some benefit to his smokes over Omen's. Omen can cast them from all ranges, and they're bigger. Yeah. You need some different niche that Brimstone can occupy, and the fact that they last 3 ages, as we know them, of the Earth, that really does help, I think. You can just block up a choke point forever.
I like the Omen changes as well, just briefly reading over them. Did you have anything to add to it, Wyatt, as well? On the Brimstone changes?
No, I mean, it's just it's a buff to every
Everything.
part of his kit. Yeah. I mean, it seems... I think they've done a good job with balancing both of them. I still think you're going to see both now, really. Though the Omen ones do seem sort of drastic on paper. I still think Omen's going to be incredibly powerful.
I mean,
especially
what are the
raising
Omen ones again?
raise the paranoia cost from 200 to 400, which is a lot. But you're getting the best flash in the game.
Yeah, it's the best flash in the game. It's crazy.
And then the time to cast the dark cover went from 4,000 to 2,800.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't think it's the
speed.
time to cast. It's technically the travel speed.
Yeah, it's travel
right?
speed.
It's like,
yeah.
So I think that's actually one of the more impactful ones too, considering that it was so good for like if you wanted to do like a fake smoke or if you were setting up a really fast engage to do the dark cover, and now they've really increased the time that it takes to execute. So you can't just pop execute nearly as fast off an Omen smoke. I feel like that's actually a super impactful change compared to like, I feel like that's the biggest thing for Brimstone, because now you can still immediately execute on Brimstone smokes, but you can't on Omen anymore.
Yeah.
Here's a thought. Do you think do you think this is actually gonna inject Brimstone into the game, or is Omen too integral for the way that teams have learned to play the game at the moment in terms of playing off of the paranoia?
I think the paranoia is enormously important. Like it's
Yeah.
the defining thing about Omen. But if the smokes are just hands down better on Brimstone, then that could it's not so much that you want the balance to be tipped. You want teams to have to choose between them. And like, you know, the way that Angel was playing with FPX before, where he actually wanted to play the Brim on bind because he wanted the smokes to go down immediately. And like, boom, you hit the site and you're doing some fast executes out of showers or whatever. That's the kind of decision you want to be having the teams make is, do we want to be running faster executes, or do we want to kind of slowly default around the map and have this big paranoia to be able to initiate? I think it's good to have them in different niches, and I think that's what this does, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I think the other area where the Omen changes are going to hit is just the amount of set plays that involve the paranoia. At this
it's
point,
insane, right?
There are just I mean, there are hundreds probably.
Yeah.
Maybe not hundreds. That might have been.
Well, I mean, the thing is, a lot of the
point is there's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of the best teams.
So yeah, a lot of people, it's like, oh, do we really want to throw away all these plays that we've developed?
So many mid-round.
Yeah, maybe you do.
Mid-round 2-man plays, 3-man plays with the paranoia that you're playing off.
Yeah. But the thing is, you can do that with a lot of the other agents in the game. Like there are you say there's like, okay, let's make the number a bit more reasonable. There are tens of dozens maybe of plays that you can make with paranoia across the maps. But there are just huge amounts that have never been discovered of other agents and how they synergize together.
Sure.
So I don't feel like you're losing you're definitely losing something big, but there's enough across the other agents most of the time to be able to make up for it. You can still play with a Brim. You don't need paranoia to be successful.
Definitely see a lot more Brim and Breach duo play.
Yeah, that's what I think as well.
Yeah, for the sake of having the flashes still to pull off X amount of set plays, but then also for the actual those fast executes that you were talking about, just having the Breach utility for those situations. I definitely see something like that coming into the meta.
Yeah, it's interesting. Avast, anything to add to that?
I mean, I think we hit it all, right?
Yeah,
I'm a tiny bit worried about Omen simply because if you remove, I think it makes him a lot more static in a way, because since his smokes are so much slower, and also you've increased the cost. I am a little worried about Omen because like that was his paranoia was the most important part of his kit, but the dark cover is what made him so universal, I think, in comps in terms of how good it was on top. Like, so I am worried a little bit in terms of like, does Omen really fall out of the meta a bit? But also Omen's sort of been meta for how long now?
Lord Almighty, he's had a 99.8% pick rate for the longest time, and Avast's already worrying that he's going out of the meta.
I'm okay with that if he does. I'm fine.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, we can get back onto topic about Yoru, because we were talking about our boy, Yoru, as he's known in the wider scene.
Every time you pronounce that name, and so does everybody else, by the way, as well, always pronouncing it differently.
Yoru?
I think it's Yoru, right?
Yoru.
Yoru. Yoru. People always pronounce it Euro. It's like people say Euro all the time when you're just casual. Yeah,
really?
It's everywhere, man. All of the pros and the different people making content.
They just know something that we don't.
No, I think they're just mispronouncing the name and just mixing up the vowels.
Anyway, Euro. I think this. We briefly talked about this with the leaks that came out, with the Russian leaks when we got to see his kit. I say briefly. I think it was a significant part of the episode, but my opinion hasn't changed on this. I think his kit is incredible. Honestly, the amount of mind games. So much of this game is based off of timings at the top level, and this is one of those agents that's just going to mess up a lot of timings in people's heads in terms of where people can be at a certain time. It's going to make you rethink about if they have a Yoru. If they have a Yoru. If they have a Yoru.
This is what I'm talking about, man.
If they have a Yoru, then it's going to change the way that they have to think about where people can be at certain times in the map.
Yeah.
And they've just given him flashes as well. I feel like flashes is something they tack onto every new agent's kit when they don't really know what additional ability to give them.
Yeah, because it makes you self-sustainable. Like you can.
Yeah.
Plus, it gives you some value when a site execute actually happens.
Yeah.
Which Yoru would be.
Its flashes are really interesting too, though, because they're the first. They're different than every other flash because you can. It's the closest to like honestly Phoenix, but not quite Phoenix because you can send them an indefinite distance until it bounces and then it goes off based off of timer, right?
Yeah, not quite indefinite, but nearly.
Is it?
Yeah,
it's a long distance.
They're pretty close to CS, right?
I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's closer to CS.
This is like the closest equivalent to a pop flash in CS, which is why this is very significant because people are going to learn lineups where you can pop flash people. That is the key element, and that is also why this agent is incredible. He has the best flashes in the game, I think.
How many flashes does he have again? Is it 2 or 1? How many flashes does he have?
He has two flashes and one teleport, which I thought was weird. I thought that they would. I think this agent would be better if they were the other way around, personally. I don't think that the focus should be on his flash. The flash does not really synergize with any of the rest of the kit, except it's a flash, so it synergizes with any kind of positioning that you can do. You know, it's its own little thing, but all the rest of the kit is about manipulating information that your opponents have, which I feel... I think thematically, another teleport would fit in better, and also would allow for more creativity in the round, rather than just flash peeking.
I think it might be too much if he has 2 teleports, though, honestly. Might be a bit too impressive for your little brain. The little brains are going to melt if he has 2 teleports. I think that might be a little bit too much. It does put him in an interesting position, though, as well, where you can think of more supportive opportunities for him. In being that pop flasher, because you can just throw out the best flashes possible for your teammates to peek off of. So I wonder what type of executes we'll be seeing in regards to maybe him sending in the teleport somewhere and the footsteps somewhere else, but namely like the teleport going somewhere into a site, and then possibly like lining up a pop flash for a Jett to dash in, or a teammate to come out of a door and get the guy who's right around the corner full blind, and then you teleport somewhere else or something like that.
I can just think of some usage like this. This is an agent that's going to be pretty powerful even at our rank, which is like diamond level.
Iron 2.
Beyond that, Iron 2 level. The execute, or the set play that people love to do in diamond. Think about it. You're on Haven, you're on attack. Rush A or play contact A. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So you get your Yoru, Yoru,
yeah.
I think you said it right the first time.
Yeah, I don't know though. Yeah, your Yoru, and then you just send in both of your footsteps. You send in yourself. You put a TP back into your spawn. Your team waits 15 seconds. You fake hit onto A. Maybe invest a couple of bits of utility into it as well. Maybe a smoke into heaven. And suddenly you've got a rotation already going, and you just hit C, and maybe there's just one player onto C. Yeah. Like there's a lot of cool stuff you can probably do with this agent when he's actually released. I think he's going to be meta.
Yes, I
just like Reyna.
Oh yeah, I know. The ult itself reminds me mostly of Phoenix. In terms of how
it is.
You're entering, you're creating space, you're gathering information. The biggest difference between that and the Phoenix ult is that you can't be killed in it, but when you come out of it, you don't have a second life either. Right. So even though you can't be stopped, once you reach your destination, you can die, which is the opposite of the Phoenix ult, where you can gather information really easily for free, but they can stop that information getting gathered by killing you. But the actual killing you just sends you back to your body.
I think it's like almost like a combo of Omen ult and Phoenix ult in a way, because you don't have that second life. I find it close
a little
to
bit.
that.
Yeah. By the way, Kurt, Scream has a really good video on Yoru that I'd like to bring up, because he's actually playing it in some games and trying out some stuff that I think will end up being used later on down the line. Because something that we talked about last week was the weaknesses of his kit, right? We didn't know them because it was just leaked, so we only saw kind of the strengths. The weaknesses, I said the teleport had to be breakable. It is breakable, but it's only breakable when you're within like near sight distance of it, which is really weird.
What do you mean? It doesn't show up otherwise?
Doesn't show up otherwise. You can kind of
because otherwise
it
would be too weak. It would be too weak, I feel like, if you could see it really easily, because then you'd just be able to shut it down all the time. So I feel like it's a tough balancing act for it.
Yeah, it is a bit of a tough balancing act, but I feel like it's going to be giga strong because they added the near sight element to it. The reason being is that most of the time when you're trying to control a choke point, you're not really holding it from face on. You're not trying to like duel the guy straight up. You're trying to take some kind of side angle, and you wait for him to cross in front of you, and then you kill him. And what that means is you can just pass the teleport past people through choke points, and they never even know that you've shot it.
Oh my god!
Because they can't see it, and so they have no way of punishing it because they can't shoot it because they can't see it. And so,
like right here in this clip, look at that position from Scream. It's kind of nasty. Like the Sage walks in and Scream is behind. Behind her.
That is, I mean, it does make a very loud noise for where you're teleporting to. So I definitely think people are going to get better at hearing that and reacting to it really quickly. The same way as like, Reddit Omen plays are not as viable anymore. But there was a specific clip I was thinking about when it got to bind somewhere, where he's pushing from B long and he just throws it to the back of sight. And unless you're holding back of sight or tube,
you won't know.
You won't know. Like you won't see that thing. You might hear it passing and surmise that he's going to end up back of sight, but you can't really punish that. There doesn't seem to be a great way of stopping him doing it. And that means that you've instantly got a Yoru in the back of sight and the rest of the team ready to push. It's like a jet dash on crack. There's going to be a bunch of different places where you can make that teleport work so well to entry.
The jet dash, it's a boom bot as well in terms of like thinking about affecting people's crosshair placement. If they're trying to follow, it's another threat essentially that they have to be worried about when they're holding into a site.
Yeah, I think if you just threw it towards them, they're not really obliged to kill it, because if you pop out, you're vulnerable for a while.
Okay, so you
could leave it and try and camp it instead.
But
if it's behind you,
oh yeah.
But the thing is, it's like I mean, it should be a free kill in theory if they don't choose to kill it. If they think that the vulnerability is big enough, if you time it up with your team in terms of your peak timings,
yes,
it should be a free kill on anybody,
or at least a trade.
A trade, at least.
Yeah. But it's I think this was one of the situations where it's just
although you can see the synergy here with stopping the because it's really loud when you exit the teleport, but if you throw the footsteps at the same time, if you throw his little distraction footsteps, then you're able to sort of mask the sound a bit, so you can sort of just put more chaos out the audio.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
And that is just
my god!
And the thing is too, I don't know the ranges for where you can hear the teleport from. Now, the good thing is, it's not like Omen. You hear where he teleports to, not where he teleported from, because otherwise it would be completely broken.
Yeah, it would.
But I don't know the range on it. So in theory, you could have somebody teleport down a long sight line that you then can't hear them, and you get shot.
All the abilities look so cool.
Yeah.
As well. I mean, they really... They killed it with this one.
The thematics of this agent are really sick.
It's also cool. Mega powerful without being broken, I think. It doesn't look like... It looks like you could counter it. Unlike, you're going to have to change how you think about what positions are safe, but it doesn't look like you're going to be sat on site and suddenly there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's mega powerful, crazy skill ceiling, but I don't. Yeah, it doesn't
But not
strike me
broken.
as being broken. No,
Yeah.
it's
I'm
absolutely
interested to see
counterable.
how it synergizes before we decide, though, because I
Yes.
really feel like this is going to be an agent. It's like the complete opposite spectrum of Reyna in a lot of ways, where Reyna's like, okay, you need to get kills and you need to use those kills to leverage your utility advantage. I feel like for Yoru, it's more like I'm really focusing on saying his name right. I'm really focusing, but I really feel like though it's going to be a lot of synergy related to actually making sure your Yoru is like in a really good spot, and like you are pushing with them to get the most value out of their utility and their abilities versus like himself leveraging his own utility to get more value. You know, like I feel like it's going to be a lot of team dependent setup to get the most out of his kit.
Sure. I think as well, something that people have frequently talked about, the pros at least, when I've been watching their videos, kind of thinking about the agent, is that he's going to be run with Omen like almost all the time. Even if Brimstone gets buffed up the wazoo, you need someone who can throw long-range, lurky kind of smokes for the Yoru to be able to help with the fakes so that he can lurking down avenues created for himself, to be able to, you know, if you've thrown a teleporter into some aggressive position, but you need an area smoked off, you don't want to have to rely on like a Brim running up behind you with his iPad. Like, don't worry, boys, I got you.
Well,
Or I'll throw you a stim pack.
presumably they knew this before the Brimstone buffs, whereas range got increased on the smokes.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, but
So-
but also I don't really think that the range increase is what you're going for there, because quite a bit of the time I'm imagining you're going to want to throw smokes on the exact opposite side of the map, which Brim has been given a buff to his range, but not a huge buff to his.
Yeah.
You also want to be able to exactly place the smokes, which is a lot easier with Omen still than it is with Brimstone. Like Brimstone, you're like going to be fine for the most part, but Omen, you can literally say like, I want my smoke to be here for my Yoru player.
You realize you can click as Brim as well, you know? And like,
Well, no,
actually
I
put
mean,
this
I
back
understand that, but like the thing is that I would say it's a little bit harder to like for sure 100% put it in the exact spot. Like there'll be small percentages of the times where you might put them in like a little bit of the wrong location.
Oh, I put them in the wrong location all the time, but that's just because I'm fucking bad.
I have to say as well, I really like the timing of the release of this agent in conjunction with the challengers coming up at the end of the month. I think this is like the perfect window to add new things to the game, and then it maximize its being interesting in a tournament where you have just enough time for the like elite players who are really gonna maximize the usage of this agent. They'll be able to do it in the tournament in a few weeks. Not like I don't know, like in Fortnite, where you know I experienced this many times where new update. Day of a tournament. Here's a bunch of new shit in the game, and it's not interesting because nobody knows what to do with it yet. But you have just enough of a window where I'm very excited to see what teams are going to do with this agent in challengers. That is the thing I'm most excited about seeing now, heading into the tournament at the end of the month. So I think this is like the perfect window for adding new things to the game, new agents, new maps. Like give a few weeks so the people can go hard figuring it out.
I mean, presumably as well, if we think about the rest of 2021, if they have a schedule to release 6 agents across the year, they're roughly going to map to each Masters and Challengers event anyway. So
there is going to be periods though, surely, where they don't have time to practice. Like there is a tournament, but I think they won't be allowing those agents to be played in those tournaments anyway.
Possibly, yeah. They've done that before with Killjoy.
Is Winter Championship, is the NSG Winter Championship, are they allowing Yoru?
I don't know.
I don't know.
We don't know yet.
We don't know. Okay, so yeah, because that would be interesting because that's like if they are allowing it, that could be a quick sneak.
That would be a
peek.
scramble.
I can't. I mean,
in the upcoming tournament,
I don't know why I'm going to get. No,
that's. I mean, it's
it's
on
a
the
25K tournament that starts on the 13th.
That's right. Yeah,
So it's the
Yeah.
day after it comes out. So, I mean,
probably
I guess
not then, right? I don't think they'd do it.
I
don't think they do
if
it.
I'm running an NSG Winter Championship, hell yeah, I allow Yoru. Hell yeah. Like that is eyeballs on your tournament immediately.
Yeah,
so if I'm an
true.
administrator, I'm like, hell, fuck yeah, we're going to throw that in. Why not? You're going to have to play it for challenges anyway. This is a smaller event. It's not like, this isn't a major. It's a
25K.
good,
It's a solid
It's a
tournament.
solid tournament. It's a good opportunity to practice with stuff like that if you want to throw a curveball for your opponents. I think it would be crazy interesting if they did use it. But I can understand if they ban it as well for competitive integrity, whatever.
Let's talk about the competitive.
Oh, sorry. What I wanted to say though, generally, is that if you think about the schedule of 2021, I feel like Valorant is going to have the identity of if you pick up the new agent quickly, you could win a tournament based off of it. And that isn't just going to be a one-off thing for this event. That is going to be a thing that spans the entirety of the years of Valorant, assuming they keep up this release schedule of agents. Yeah. Because if they're releasing an agent a couple of weeks before each of the like challenges events, like you see on the screen, I mean, there's going to be ample opportunity for teams to get good with a certain agent. Now, not every agent is meta-defining or going to allow you to win a tournament. Like Sky and Killjoy, nobody won a tournament because they were so good with them. But you could imagine that there will be occasional periods through the year where an agent is so good that if you can get good with it quicker than everyone else, you could have a much greater chance, if not just a chance in general, of winning that tournament. That could be the identity of Valorant throughout this year, is just not so much adapting to the meta, but getting good with new agents as soon as they're released.
The meta.
Yeah, creating it. Yeah, almost.
Yeah. I wanted to move on to talk about some of the EU signings, the mix-ups, because there's been some big news in EU, basically. This is what we were looking forward to, I think, before the Challenger Series and everything else, was the big shake-up that occurs. Yeah. And we're starting to see that with a top EU team, starting with FPX. dimasick is this a rumor, presumably?
No, this is actually
a proper.
This has actually been announced. We talked about this before when it was a rumor, but they full on announced it now. So okay, dimasick's going to be the replacement. I personally feel pretty good about this. I think that there's no real reason to me to replace Meadow in the first place. Like, I don't get.
Yeah, from an outside perspective, it seems strange, but also we don't know what the internals were for that team.
Exactly. I can't. I don't think it was a bad move. I don't think that dimasick is a lot worse than Meadow. I think dimasick perhaps looks even more skilled and more willing to be like active in fights and active and aggressive in terms of how he takes map control as well, which could be beneficial for FPX. I don't think that they're going to get worse by any means. Mm-hmm. And Meadow was pretty self-sufficient with how he played in the first place. He wasn't really involved in many of their set plays and strats and stuff like that. He was really quite a self-sufficient player on the rest of the team. So I can't think of many, like, there's no key strats that FPX runs that dimasick is going to have to like scramble to get adjusted to. It's just, where do I position while I'm like holding the default and the rest of my team is taking map control? And maybe dimasick is now more involved in those than Meadow ever was. I think that this could be it's either a side grade or an upgrade, I think, because I'm trusting that FPX identified a weakness accurately, or like not a weakness, sorry, a limiting factor to like getting to the next level. I think was just like how they worked with Meadow.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, honestly, I feel like there's not much else to say until we see it realistically, because dimasick, from the footage I've seen, he seems fine. He seems pretty good. He hopefully they're thinking they're just going to be more aggressive. So the agent pool makes sense for them. So overall, it's kind of just waiting to see how he gets incorporated into the squad. You know, like, this isn't a big enough signing to me to be like, oh, this is for sure like an amazing pick. But like, we're just going to have to see how he actually works and if it fixes any of the issues they felt they had.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one I just don't think I haven't seen enough of dimasick play. I don't have a strong opinion really on him individually.
I also think that generally speaking, FPX have other issues. Like their loss in First Strike was, I would say, nothing to do with Meadow.
I would absolutely agree with that.
The collapse that they had against Summon when it came to that final map, which again, the first two maps were pretty close and it was a decent performance, but they didn't hit the heights that they had previously hit or were attempting to hit. And then that final map was a mental boomage like no other. And I don't think that was because of Meadow in any sense. So, in fact, I have no idea what happened there because it was so out of character compared to what we'd seen previously from FPX. So whatever the hell happened there would be my focus 2021. Like, what actually happened when the pressure was on? You lost all of the Ignition series, albeit you looked great in those, but then you also lost a really key game against a, on paper, weaker opponent in First Strike. Like, what's actually happening when it gets to the... Presumably the mental game is having some component here. Maybe not everything, but it has to. That collapse on Bind where they lost like 13-4 that's not just because they got outplayed. That's a strategic decision, playing a composition that they haven't played for months, and then mentally booming them.
Yeah, I mean, and in regards to that, I suppose, just trust their coaching structure. I mean, they do have quite the team behind them.
They got Doom Bros and another CIS coach whose name escapes me that they recently added.
Yeah,
I
can't think of his name. But here we go. Yeah, they have a wealth of staff behind them.
The overwhelming opinion outside, though, is just looking from the outside in with the moves that FPX are making, is that they're like, everyone's like, well, I don't really know. Nobody really knows. You know? It's
I've
like the meta move just kind of, they're like, okay, well, if they think it's going to help, then sure. Yeah. But from the outside in, it looked like there were no real problems with Meadow as an individual. But if, you kind of just have to trust that the structure, the team itself has, like you said, Josh, identified the weaknesses. In this case, being Meadow, even though it doesn't seem like it, and hopefully they're going to look better. It's a strange one. You got to see how it plays out. This is why the shakeup's so weird, you know.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe at the end of January. Another EU team, G2, rumored.
I mean, this one is bananas.
Rumored
honestly.
to be picking up. So they got rid of David. He's benched or gone.
He's still benched.
He's benched and he's just
he's
to
gone.
pursue other opportunities.
No,
I think he said he was gone.
Right, but I mean benched in terms of like I think he's still with G2 still the organization, isn't he? I think he's still like tagged up on Twitter and stuff.
I could have sworn. Here, I'll check it real quick.
Yeah,
I could have.
The thing is in Valorant though as well is that they bench players and then they're like, yeah, you can pursue other opportunities.
Yeah.
So they don't actually let players go.
No, you're right. He is sort of in the fact he's still under contract, but he is not on the active roster.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just the terminology they would use would just be bench. Anyway, the rumor is that they're going to be picking up Zeek as well, who's going to be playing like an entry position for them.
Yeah,
which is
bonk.
Yeah, that is strange.
So Artis is still saying on the Sova. And Zeek is not going to be on the Sova.
Yeah, Zeek has been insane. When Zeek was playing for Nolpenki, he was so skilled on the Sova. I mean, he's just a skilled player. You anticipate that would track to any agent that he plays or any role that he plays. But he's played IGL for his teams in the past. And that's what we were saying on this podcast before. That even though Zeek has IGL'd and G2 are looking for an IGL, I've never seen Zeke's IGLing and gone, wow, that guy's really good at IGLing. When you watch Zeke's teams, you're like, holy crap, that guy's really skilled.
Yeah,
you don't think, oh, they're so intelligent and tactical and whatever. You're thinking about the player, not really his IGL skills. And so the fact that they've just found somebody skilled and added them in a position they don't play, I don't get it. How does that solve the issue?
I'm curious as to what the calling structure would even be at this point, really. Like, what are they seeking from an in-game leader in terms of calling?
I think
because presumably as well, if you're going to be an in-game leader, in the first...
I don't think he is going to be the IGL though, right?
I would be really surprised if he was playing entry and IGL. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. I think someone else will pick it up, but I don't know.
Right, because it gives me Sabrosa flashbacks. Yeah. But it's like... because it's just so strange to have an in-game leader attempting to be the entry player who needs to be heavily focused on aiming. So presumably that's not what they're trying to do, and they'll, I don't know, maybe be still in that like loose calling kind of free-flowing mode where there isn't necessarily just a hard.
Mixwell said on stream that
he's got the juice.
Yeah, well, Mixwell said something weird on stream that was like, vaguely alluding to it. I think he said something like, if anyone was going to pick up the IGL, it would be me. When referring to if any of the pre-existing players were going to pick up the IGL. Like, if they didn't add an IGL, at least this is what I think he meant, because it was an unclear, ambiguous statement. But I believe he meant, of any of the pre-existing players on G2, if any of them were going to turn into IGLs, it would be Mixwell.
Sure.
Yeah.
That implies to me as well that they almost want Zeek to take over the entry role while Mixwell plays
whatever
Raze maybe instead, and they play like
gaps.
Phoenix Raze and Phoenix Jett, and he ops. I don't know. That's the thing.
Yoru Jett. I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, it is very strange. And if I had to make a guess, I don't think that whatever comp they're thinking of running now, I don't think it's going to be the one that they end up staying with. Because as well as the just looking at the team and the flexibility that the players have, like thinking, you would think that when you're including a new player in that team, when you're signing a new player, first player who I would think would be switching would be Artis, because he's just so flexible. You can just play anything.
I agree.
So I would assume bringing in a new player who is a Sova, Artis would be the guy that could just, okay, I'll just play something else.
Yeah.
And he'll be fine.
That's what I would have assumed. That's what I thought was going to happen when they added Zeke, but apparently not. I wonder if anyone can find, or Avast, if you can fact check this as well.
What?
But I believe the quote was like from, I think it was Nell who reported on this, but it might have been Mandeep.
It was.
And they said the quote was something like, Zeke is going to be playing a Phoenix type duelist or something. And I was like,
that made me think,
I found the original report, and then and it says that in this original report that Zeke has shown some interesting things, blah blah blah. But I'm looking to see what exactly they want from him. It doesn't really say exactly what his potential agent pool is going to be. I mean, looking in the past, Zeke has played not a lot, but an okay amount of raids in the past. So, I mean, theoretically, Zeke could be an entry, like even just looking through his agent usage, like Raze was his like second most used agent, and then he sort of has a smattering of others. So, I mean, theoretically, potentially, and since Zeke is really mechanically gifted, they could. It doesn't. I don't know if it's crazy, because I mean, I know Artis is insane and flexible, but do you find Artis to be an intrier necessarily?
Well, my thing would be that it's not even just Artis that's flexible; it's every player on that team. So when they say we're bringing in this guy to do this, like while they're still sort of in the trial pre-officially signed period, I honestly don't put that much weight in the statements like that, because I think things are going to change so rapidly, and with a very viable agent coming into the game, I think it's just, I don't know if I put a lot of stock into those.
I see the report. Wait, it is in the report.
Words. I think they're going to be able to switch, because Mixwell's played a million things.
Yeah.
Pattytech's played a million things. Like, you could even put Pattytech on the Phoenix.
You actually could, yeah. Pattytech was incredibly good on Phoenix.
Yeah, so
I see the quote, by the way, now, Josh. I missed it. I had to use a word search, and I found it this time. So he should not play Sova since Artis already holds this role, but he should turn to a rather dualistic Phoenix-type agent, according to our sources. So, yeah.
That is mental to me. So
who said that?
So
that was the source that gave it to
the
Nell.
quote isn't attributed to anybody. But I don't understand how this game of whispers has created a report where Nell is saying he's going to play a dualistic Phoenix-type role or Phoenix-type agent. There are no agents other than Phoenix who are Phoenix-type. Does that just mean Phoenix and Yoru and Reyna? Is that it?
Yeah, I think that just meant like Flash.
Because Raze is nothing like it. Jett is nothing like it. It's Phoenix, Reyna, and then Yoru.
Yeah, for some reason, my immediate thought was they want to play Yoru. When they say Phoenix,
but maybe you guys are getting too deep on it. Maybe one of the sources is like, I don't know, a general manager for one of the teams that's been been
yeah,
watching
maybe they just mean that they want him
it
to be an aggressive intrier type of guy.
Yeah, like maybe they're using that term as in like, okay, in the scrims they've mainly been playing him on Phoenix, and they're assuming he's going to be playing the dualist role, which encompasses.
I'm suckling the tea leaves trying to read the future. I think I'm going too deep.
We really are.
It.
I really think that those words don't actually matter. Everyone on that team can play everything in the game, and they're just going to figure it out.
To add on to that as well, Wyatt, I think the reason why we shouldn't be paying too much attention to this as well is because the second part of this announcement is that they're still looking at coaches. nEiLZiNHo?
Yeah.
nEiLZiNHo, I assume.
nEiLZiNHo?
Yeah.
Another
they're still looking at some sort of overarching structure for this team, because presumably up until this point it's been largely team ran, right?
Yeah.
Like they've been experimenting, they've been wanting to get somebody to kind of like lead them and put them on a direction, but they haven't found somebody to do that yet.
nEiLZiNHo was the old coach of Rick's and the Royals team.
The fact that they're still looking for a coach as well, I mean, I think anything that comes out this early about roles in terms of what they're playing, you can't really take seriously.
Sure.
I mean, you got to take it with a grain of salt, because this is a team that's still trying to find their footing. They're still trying to find that structure.
But that is worrying to me, though. That's part of my concern for G2 is that they didn't have a vision when they picked up the player.
Sure.
They're adding the player and forming the vision around that. Or at least that's what it seems like from the outside. Maybe that's wrong, but it seems like that from the outside, which doesn't inspire confidence for me, because I think the only way for G2 to stay on top is for them to really figure out a system that works for them. And I think that for that, you need a vision. You need, like, you can't run your team by committee and try and get to the top. G2 got there at the beginning, but it feels like G2 are going to fall off unless they have a decisive vision for the future and a player that fits very well into that style. And
I mean, maybe I see how Zeke potentially could be, if you were looking in, like, so Zeke has played some very supportive roles with this, particularly Sova in the past. But they also wanted someone else that could be a little bit more flexible and a hard entryer, as opposed to David P, right? Where David P's agent pool wasn't super big. And on top of that, he wasn't necessarily like running in and being sort of a very aggressive entryer. So realistically, if you look at sort of the past, what Zeke has played, he should theoretically be flexible enough to where he diverges a bit from David P, you know? So maybe that's what they wanted, was just someone that's more flexible than David P, and also can, and on top of that flexibility, can also play, you know, more aggressive roles too.
yeah, and I don't think that Zeke is a bad pickup at all. But I think what it lacks is the vision necessary to take them to being world beaters, like they originally looked like. Because none of this appears to solve the issue of G2's structure and IGLing and like the actual, you know, the core problems. Zeke is mad skilled, crazy flexible. He's gonna be good. He is a good player, but does that actually put G2 over the top? I don't know. I think there's deeper issues that are more on nEiLZiNHo to fix.
This is the early scenes in an esports, right? That we see so many times over with a new game where the structure isn't there yet in terms of how teams are ran. And it's all very much like it's a wild west of team ran kind of environments where the decisions are being made and sometimes they don't add up and they're being made alongside other decisions. And they're just praying that in the end, they followed the quick recipe. You know, they've just shoved it all in a microwave and they're going to get a baked cake at the end. That's the hope. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the interesting thing about all these changes is that the answer that we all have is we don't know until we see them play. We can't really accurately.
I like to wildly speculate.
I mean, that's the only thing we can do.
It would be easier to have some idea if you knew what the hell the roles were. But we just don't.
Yeah, we talked about this briefly last night, Josh, and I said that I felt a little bit underwhelmed by this pickup, and you said you were whelmed.
Yeah, I was whelmed.
I've gotten to that place where thinking about it. I am also. I'm just whelmed. There's nothing about it that's inspiring massive confidence. It's not like it doesn't feel decisive. Like this is the guy we wanted. And we are going in the
I can't see the vision.
There's not a hard direction. There's not a hard vision that it seems that you can really track with it. If there is, I mean,
I don't know what it is.
I'm not. I'm not seeing it.
Like, but I'm not underwhelmed. Like, I don't think that Zeke is a bad pickup. I'm not underwhelmed.
No, he's definitely not.
But I'm not inspired. I am simply whelmed.
Yeah, it's
simply
very whelming pickup.
We'll see how it plays out. Another EU team that's making changes.
Oh yeah,
bro.
Bren's ready to lose his mind.
This one is ridiculous.
Yeah, this one, it's Liquid. They're making some changes. It seems like they are. This is the rumor that they're benching nEiLZiNHo and soulcas.
Well, one or the other.
Well, here's the thing. The rumor is also JUGI.
I don't know actually.
I think it's Yugi.
Yeah. I think it's Yugi.
Yeah, the CS:GO player is reported to be moving over to Valorant here. What a tremendous pickup! But the rumor is also that they're going to be moving into the IGL slot, which is what nEiLZiNHo currently inhabits in Liquid. So it's clear that Liquid have decided, okay, we need to make some changes off the back of the tournaments. Right, despite the fact that I was singing their praises, you know, despite the fact that they went out round of one in first strike, they went against Heretics. They had a reasonably close game. Obviously,
a crazy close game.
Didn't have the consistency against Heretics. Heretics looked like the better team, but they are making some changes, and they're leading it out with a big one. This is going to be another. If this is coming to light if it is true. Another huge acquisition from CSGO to move into Valorant with JUGI.
Yeah.
He recently played for Astralis.
Yeah, he was
he hasn't been on the active roster. He hasn't been playing for Astralis in 2020.
Was he on the?
What was notable about him was that he was the first person announced when Astralis did their "we're going to have a bench" move. When they decided they were going to have a sixth player, he was the signing, and then it came out that the individual players who were on Astralis, the starting 5, people wanted breaks for mental health and burnout.
It wasn't really a bench so much as it was here's some fill-in players.
Yeah, and so
while we not fuck around, but while we take breaks.
The low point of Astralis, right?
I mean, it was just a downward spiral.
It was at the beginning of 2020. Their players were just burned out, and they wanted breaks. And that's when they signed the 6th and the 7th, which the first person they signed was JUGI, and he played with them for a bit. And then, I mean, he's just been, presumably playing Valorant, I guess, behind the scenes.
I'm not sure, though, because all of the discussion that I saw of people who were the Redditors that follow streams everywhere, and they look at all of the people who are playing pro pugs and stuff. Yeah, mad helpful. The little birds on the ground.
Yeah.
But they were saying that the general consensus appeared to be from a lot of fans that this was very surprising that they had no idea that JUGI was even trying to make the transition.
Oh, really?
And that they weren't aware that he had even played very much Valorant before. So I don't know whether that's correct. Very difficult to know how long a dude's been playing just on his own time.
I mean, he hasn't played in a team at all. He hasn't played on any teams, and now he's on Liquid. So.
Yeah, I mean, but also he's not on Liquid. The report said he was trialing with Liquid, right?
For Liquid.
So
yeah, trialing.
They're trying him out. Now, what's mental about this is Sliggy originally said that Liquid weren't going to have any roster changes after First Strike. And the first person they trial is not... I mean, I can't imagine that this is Sliggy's selection for the best person. This screams suits.
Yep, yeah.
It actually hollers from the mountains. I am a suit and I want you to trial the Astralis player. Because it's nonsense.
Yeah, it absolutely, it does look like a suits move. Because even if you're, there's obviously not a direct equation from you are good at CS, you are good at Valorant, right? We know that. You can be there are plenty of people who are pretty good at CS and are excellent at Valorant at this stage. But it's not like JUGI was a world beater in Valorant. I mean, he was...
In CS, you mean?
Or in CS, rather, sorry. He was pretty good, and he subbed on Astralis because he was one of the only available unsigned pretty good Danish players.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was he was good. He was a fine replacement, but it wasn't like they were signing the absolute cream of the crop. Holy shit, look at this guy we just got to replace, Zipniks, the other 9 players who subbed out for Astralis. He was just one of the guys who was available. So it wasn't, it's... You would think if Liquid really wanted to make a move like this, they'd be going for some real world beater CS player. Let's see if we can plug this guy in.
Yeah.
And get someone who's really going to be legit. So it absolutely does look like the suits move. This goes on Astralis.
Yeah.
I mean, he must be the shit.
Isn't JUGI an AWPer as well?
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever, because why are you trying to replace Eccles or soulcas with an AWPer? And why are you trying to replace Eccles, who IGLs and sets up the team so well, with anybody anyway? It's none of this move makes any sense. So it doesn't even make sense to trial, in my opinion.
I was hanging out on Sliggy's stream the other day.
Oh, yeah?
And his chat was asking him a bunch of different questions. It was pretty interesting. He was digging his brain, which, by the way, we need to get Sliggy on one of the future episodes.
Oh, definitely. Sliggy's great.
He says he wants to be on. So
yeah.
We're going to get him on.
He's fantastic.
One of the questions that I thought was quite interesting was talking about, there was one, now that you've mentioned about him being an operator player, or an AWPer, I guess, because CS. One of the questions was, what do you think about the validity of having a full-time operator player in Valorant at the moment? And Sliggy said that he feels like you don't need it at the moment because the operator is too much of a high cost, essentially. this is Sliggy's direct viewpoint, is that you don't need like a mainstay operator player at the moment because the gun is too expensive to really build around for long periods of time. Maybe if it was cheaper, the opportunity would be there. The second point he made as well was that he doesn't believe that at this point in the game's lifespan, the kind of system with having players on the bench will work. You have these substitute players. Maybe later on when there's more agents and you need the in-depth strategy, the depth of the roster. But at the moment, he feels like 5 players is really what you want to work with. I mean, all of this kind of reads to me. I just can't see Liquid making. I cannot see Sliggy making the moves where he would get rid of Eccles or soulcas. I feel like
I don't think so. I don't think what could have changed between their loss in First Strike and now for them to feel like a move was necessary.
Yeah.
It
screams like someone high up in the organization has looked just on paper at the roster and like, well, they went out round 1.
Yeah.
And they're like, we got to make changes. This roster's just not working.
The thing is, 39 kills. Soulcas only got 7. Well, he's got to go, even though he's been excellent.
But the thing is, I'm not saying that you should never change the Liquid roster. The Liquid roster might need changes, but you can't tell that right now, in my opinion. And after First Strike, with their really close loss to Heretics, you're feeling pretty good about them moving forwards compared to any of their previous time together as a team. If you were going to make a move, you have to wait to see how the next tournament goes, I feel. And you can't, I don't know, you can't try and trial people now a couple of weeks before the tournament.
Do you really want to make a move now? Get a guy who's just playing, maybe was just playing CS, maybe, I'm sure he's been playing some Valorant like here and there, at the very least, been playing like ranked casually or pugs, whatever. But do you really want to get a guy who has not played a single Valorant match 2 weeks before Challengers begins?
That's crazy.
Your team, I think
also, what does JUGI bring? Like, not even just aside from like his actual gameplay, right? Where he was an op player. Because I think was he IGL like sort of centric for Astralis when he played for them? I can't remember, but either way,
I don't think so.
I don't know.
But either way, like regardless of any of his actual in-game benefits, this guy isn't. Even if it was a suits move, some guy was dressed up in their Armani suit, ready to using their esport investor money to be like, yes, we need to get this guy. What brand value does he bring aside from the fact that he used to play for Astralis as a sub?
Yeah, I think it's just
like 2 years ago now. 2 years, just about.
I think it's
could also be
that's it.
that we've been too latched onto this suit narrative because it makes the most sense in our heads. But again, I think we may need to look at this at the optics that we're still looking at with the FPX move, where it doesn't really make sense that they remove Meadow, but it feels like they have decided to make some changes. What's different about the FPX to the Liquid changes here? Because on paper, they seem like a similar move.
Well, to me, 2 big things are different. One, Sliggy said after First Strike they weren't going to make any roster changes. Okay. So some things happened between now and then. The thing is, you can change your mind, but if there's any idea that you might make roster changes, you don't come out and say you're not doing it. You just don't say anything. No one's forcing you to speak about whether or not you're going to make roster changes. If you have an idea you might want to make some before the next tournament, you just close your mouth. So the fact that Sliggy said there weren't going to be any implies that was his actual belief at the time. Like, you don't just come out and lie about that and you're like working behind the scenes.
Which was... I don't think there was a mad scramble for JUGI on the Valorant scene necessarily. So I don't think he was having to play 5D roster just for that. And also on top of that, they're like Meadow and dimasick, they were 2 Valorant players that got swapped out, and they both played similar roles.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, what does JUGI bring to this roster that was
isn't
necessary?
Covered? I mean, Link would op anyway. If you wanted an op player, Link would op. He's a really good opper. Why would you? I don't get any of it. It doesn't make sense.
I think one of the main differences as well is with the Meadow one seems to have made sense only to the players and the staff, the coaching staff. That is not the kind of roster move I feel like the suits would have just made on a whim. Like, oh, well, that guy's got to go. Because it's not like he ever performed badly. It's not like his stats were ever bad.
Sure.
There's no indicator that he was the problem.
Yeah.
That is something that only the players and the coaching staff who are really with him every day could have made a decision on.
Yeah.
This is a far simpler scoreboard Steven decision making or decision to be made. It seems like, right? Where sometimes one of the worries I do have about Liquid, if I'm being honest, sometimes I'm a little worried about Eccles fragging. I think there's a lot of games where he really struggles to keep up. But he provides a lot of value in other facets of the game that are not just the actual frag.
I'm worried about soulcas's agent depth as well. I know that he's an elite player when it comes to Raze, but his Sova hasn't looked fantastic for them. He's looked uncomfortable on that role, and even though he's tried a lot of different stuff, actually his Phoenix did also look really good. His Phoenix and his Raze looked really top tier, but a lot of the other stuff he's tried has looked a little uncomfortable. Yeah. I am a little concerned about that. That's why I'm saying I think roster moves could happen down the line for Liquid. But not this.
No,
I don't think this makes any sense.
It's also the timing of it. It's just not good. It's just not good timing.
In better news, I realized that Avast looks like a poster on our wall.
What? How do I look? What? Excuse me?
If you move the water jug, Bren, move that water jug, and he is essentially just a poster.
Oh, because the color of my, well, I also have the graphic, so I literally could be a poster. I literally could be a nice little poster. You know, also unrelated to this too, I started realizing every time I talked about, if I switch back to American, my American saying is David P. But because you guys, all the Brits are saying David P, I keep saying David P, even though no American people pronounce it as David.
But he's not American. He's Belgian, and his name is David.
But the point is, I just find it funny that like I'm using British English versus American English.
That's not English.
English people don't go around calling people, what's up, David?
You don't?
We call them David.
No, well, in
really?
Wales they say
British
David.
people say David.
No,
in Wales they say David.
I mean, we call people Dave. If anything, we call him Dave P.
I mean, yeah, we do call him Dave. My uncle's name is Dave. I was raised in England. I'm half Welsh, half Irish. In Wales, David. In England, David.
Maybe I've only heard Welsh people say it, and that's why I assume that all British people say
How many
David.
Welsh people have you met?
Who do you interact with as Welsh?
Mikey A.
Oh yeah, Mikey A.
Technically sort of you, though you're half. And maybe some other random Welsh people from media. I don't know, but I've heard it perhaps. So I just assumed, I had this preconceived notion that all British people said David.
No, we're just respecting the francophone pronunciation of it.
Oh, okay. Well, now I've learned something today. Now I will assume. Now I'm gonna go back to the Davy Jones crewman where I'm fused
David
into your
Jones.
wall.
Yeah.
The David Jones. Where I return to a poster on your wall. Now I'm gonna fuse back into it.
Do you got any final thoughts on the Liquid changes of us?
We should buy a frame that goes around.
One day though, we're gonna do a big reveal where I actually am there in person, and then I'm just you have the picture of me, but then you just ungreen screen it, and I'm there, and I'm just sitting there, you know. Final thoughts. Shit's whack, yo.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah. I mean, it is just unfortunate because what's wild is I think that if the same roster just went into challengers, I think they have a chance of winning.
Yeah, I don't think they would be favorites, but yeah.
Could they win? Yes.
The trouble with Liquid
I
is,
think they could.
Since the inception of the roster, since they were signed as a roster, they haven't had success.
No, they haven't achieved anything.
They haven't achieved
really.
anything. In fact, they almost went backwards when they signed Liquid. But that's understandable. It takes a bit of time once you're signing into the team to get onto the right track with where you want the results to be. And also the formats didn't help whatsoever. That's the number one thing I'll always come back to, is that the EU formats for tournaments were dog shit. But the team hasn't achieved anything. And at some point, you have to start looking to make some changes so that you can actually get the results that you think an organization like Liquid should be achieving. I mean, this is an organization across esports titles that has always achieved great things in many, many games, and they want to be achieving that same thing into Valorant. The decision making doesn't make sense to us here, but yeah, this is also just a rumor as well. I will say it could turn out that this roster of 5 will stay with Eccles and soulcas.
I mean, it could be true and they stay as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it could be true. So yeah, we'll have to see. It's all a waiting game until the first tournament, which is going to be at the end of January. In other news, we could talk about the North American changes. There's only the one that we've got down here, which is Immortals actually making their changes now, which is the release of jmoh and Neptune. They've actually done it. They
yeah. What's peculiar
Neptune's
is,
interesting to me, I'll say. Neptune's interesting to me.
Yeah, definitely.
It's very peculiar that they also got rid of Neptune.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that.
I didn't.
I mean,
no.
I never just really thought there was a problem with this.
I thought it was
play.
I thought
good.
Neptune was
good.
fine. Neptune played well.
He was one of
I actually like Neptune.
Yeah, I did as well. He's one of those players to me that whenever you watch him hold an area, the amount of times where he's like good for 2, he's so frequent. He just always seemed really solid in all the matches I saw.
Yeah.
So it is a strange one to me.
He was actually incredibly good anchoring sites, but that was his main strength, was give him a bomb site, he'll anchor it, and he's good for a couple. And something I noticed from watching a lot of Neptune is that he would put up his cages, and as the site hit came in, he would walk into his own cages to create just the Thunderdome of death. And anyone who walks into his cages dies. Because he's then protected from breach flashes and stuff like that. You can't breach flash through a cyber cage. So I liked it, but I can also see how if that style was figured out, that was a lot of what he was doing and how he was getting success.
Yeah.
So I can see a world in which maybe he looked a lot worse in scrims after first strike. He was just, his style was figured out and he was dying repeatedly, and then he wasn't offering as much value elsewhere. I don't know, pure speculation, but I can see a world in which that occurred.
Immortals also strike me as a team that would experiment a lot, I think, to try and find a working system.
Well, I mean, this is going to be like their 80th roster iteration or something.
I mean, not even paying attention to the roster changes they made, but in terms of like what they like to play a lot of, they were always changing up. Like whenever a new patch change would come in, you would be talking to like Packington and Gumba, the coaches for the Immortals, and they would always be saying like, the amount of iterations they've been trying, all this different stuff. Yeah, I think every team goes through that sort of process, but it definitely feels like Immortals were the ones that were always trying to really refine a sort of process internally. And if it wouldn't surprise me if just internally they have been trying to go for a different approach and these players just couldn't keep up.
Sure. Trying to play some triple duelist or way more killjoy or whatever. There's a lot of reasons why this could have happened. We just don't know what the actual reason was. And so it seems confusing from the outside because Neptune in matches, from what you could see, performed well. Yeah. Like that's just the facts of it. He was good in the matches.
What I do think is interesting, first I will say I hope that both those players make it onto other solid teams, because I do have I think that they both have potentially really solid careers ahead of both of them for jmoh and Neptune. But aside from that, I do think that it's good that it looks like Immortals want to be a really good team. I think they're like, all right, well, we cashed out, we made a bunch of money, we sold a couple players to 100 Thieves, NRG, great. And then
they can get Kohler back for free now.
Yeah, they can get Kohler. That would be hilarious if they really do get Kohler back for free. That'd be very funny.
Way.
Actual money machine, actual money printer. Yeah. But yeah, it's. I think it leads me to believe that Immortals want to be a really good team now. They made some money. Now let's have a really good team.
I think they've always wanted to be a good team, though. They've just felt confident enough in their scouting process to not feel so attached to players that they have to keep them on.
That's what I mean, though. Like, they're not going to take the angle of just trying to cycle players and continue to infinitely print money. Maybe they will. I mean, it seems like a reasonable thing to want, just an infinite money machine.
Can you imagine the Immortal suits? Should we win or should we continue to print money forever?
But it does seem like they're just going to keep looking for the optimal players until they have a winning roster, which I like that.
Who are the optimal players?
That's a great question. I mean, the big rumor is that they're going to try and sign Doink Machine onto Jett.
Oh, it's Doink Machine, the guy that's always at the top of the ranked ladders. Oh, that's Poise.
Poise.
Oh, wait. Oh, different Poise.
Yeah. But I had seen a rumor infinitely that they were going to be signing him.
Doinked machine.
Has he played for any teams?
Just a doink machine. Yeah, he was playing for, God, what was that team called? It was the team that had Sofa on Sova. They made a pretty deep run in the first strike qualifier. I can't think of the team name, but they were a pretty solid team.
I don't think I've watched
him, and
much
there
of
was
him.
another guy, Nature was on that team, and they were just popping off. They had some really sick individual play, but yeah, the rumor was they were going to be signing him. And as far as Sentinel, I don't know. I have not a clue who they're going to be signing. What?
Wasn't it the slimy boogerman that they were on?
No,
I don't think so.
It wasn't.
Oh no, Soar.
Yes, Soar.
Oh,
okay, yeah.
Soar. Yeah.
Soar. Yeah, not slimy boogerman. Soar.
I also think that I think previously the Cypher Sentinel role was where you threw your fifth guy a lot of the time. And recently in North America especially, the level is, well, actually not just in North America, but across the globe, the level of Sentinel play has gone up maybe quicker than any other role recently. Like it was the slowest maybe to get there, but recently it's gone up a lot. You can't get away with just being okay on the Sentinel role anymore. You're competing, I mean, if you're Immortals and you're actually trying to get good, I mean, you're competing against people like, you know, Dapper and Steel, who are having, and even people like Def, who I really rate from Dignitas as well. That you're competing against people who can be core, really powerful impact players from that role, like FNS as well.
Yeah.
Like the level of Sentinel play is enormous, and it's not enough to just be a cog in the machine anymore. You have to also be able to have huge impact rounds. And that doesn't just mean on defense where you're anchoring a site. That means on offense as well. Like you have to actually be providing value to your team at all times from that role. And I think that that's like this new wave of people that are gonna push the envelope a little bit at the top level. I think that Immortals might be looking for that kind of player where they're not just good, like Neptune was good. They're looking for someone who could be excellent as well.
Yeah, I think Steel is such a great example of that because he's a good aimer. He has good mechanics, but the value he brings to his team and the plays he makes based strictly off of the utility that he's using is just remarkable. That is what you can do from that role.
Yeah,
the potential is outrageous. So,
what's your overall thoughts on this Avast?
You know, I mean, we'll see. I mean, jmoh, I think at this point we're all kind of agreed. Even if jmoh was probably pretty good and has potential, he just wasn't working on this roster. He just wasn't working on this roster. He needed they need to change out, and maybe jmoh needed to change or something. Neptune I thought was fine, but maybe they felt like it was. I would say that's almost close to like a Meadow situation here, where like the team itself, even if Neptune was performing fine, felt like they weren't going to progress with Neptune. So like, okay, Neptune's gone. And then it's an issue of like, who do they find for that? Because like, what can I can't think of a lot of Cypher, like, or of any Sentinel free agents right now that are like really, really good. I can think of ones that are on teams that they could try to poach.
Exactly.
Like
There's few that are actually free agents in North America. Yeah. I mean, there is a huge amount of tier 2 teams, but not ones that I'm aware of.
The thing is with Immortals as well is that how many times have we lauded after their scouting process? Like the process they actually take into account when they're trialing all of these different players. They have a system in place to eventually filter down at least some good players to some capacity, especially players that no one else is really looking at.
Yeah.
Like I can definitely see that being the case of Immortals until they kind of latch on to a couple of players that they might want.
You got to say as well though, Brent, with Immortals, they've had a lot of hits, but
they've had a lot of misses.
Well, not a lot of misses, but at this point, you got to say jmoh was a bit of a miss.
Yeah,
like
I think so.
The guy had promise, and he put up some huge games on like Haven at the very end, where he just seemed to, I don't know, realize how the map worked. But that wasn't the same level of pickup that Immortals are looking for.
Even when they had the honeymoon period, when they just got rid of Asuna and Dicey, and they picked up Shot Up and everyone else, and they had that amazing sort of opening to the world where Shot Up was just absolutely dominating. This team has never really looked as good, really, since that point. They've always just kind of been hovering really around that. I mean, where would you even place them in NA?
Top 8.
Top
Top
8. around
eight?
the
I don't even know
10th,
whether
I
they
think.
are,
I,
though, I think.
actually,
Even below.
currently, I don't even. They might not be top 8, but
What?
I don't think
They
it would be
made-
unfair to put them at 8
What?
necessarily.
What? They made the first strike quarterfinals.
I think
with the
I think
Shakes.
you could put them at 8th. You know, I think you
What?
can put them at 8th.
At
Or
8th?
seven.
Yeah, I think
That's what I mean. When
Yeah,
I say
okay,
top 8, I
okay.
mean they're like around
Yeah.
8th.
yeah,
Yeah,
Which is good.
8th
I mean,
through
that's
10th, somewhere
respectable.
around there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere around that
I
sort
do
of
think
section
some
of
of
play.
these
But
tier 2 squads that didn't make first strike though are fast progressing to potentially, depending on how Immortal shakes up,
Yeah.
they could actually catch up with them
they
pretty.
absolutely needed to make some changes, though. So, yeah, we'll see. It depends how much faith that you have really into them picking up new talent, because no real names jump out, I feel like, to fill in the gaps in terms of free agents.
But then that's always the Immortals' way, isn't
Exactly,
it?
yeah.
They don't pick up those kind of
Yeah.
players anyway. So
There are definitely some ridiculous Jets out there. That's not finding a duelist is not going to
No.
be difficult. The Sentinel is the one that I'm
That's the
struggling to
difficult
think of
one.
someone.
but I really want them to pick up Cola again. I mean, that would be so
it
funny.
would be really funny.
I really,
it would
really
be
want them to pick up
hilarious if
Cola.
they just get Kohler right back.
Yeah.
God, they should just do it. Just
for the
'cause
meme.
Yeah, just because it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can move on anyway and discuss something a little bit different here. This next topic, I'm unfamiliar with it. BearClaw Gaming announcing their new Korean roster.
Oh yeah,
Is
I wanted
this-
to run you guys through this.
Yeah, go on.
So this is really kind of cool. So you know how T1 Korea and Cloud9 Korea
dropped their
rosters, right?
Yeah.
And so there's been a bit of a shuffle in the Korean scene of that, like the teams that were trying to beat Vision Strikers essentially, and they've come together. I don't know whether BearClaw Gaming is a known organization. I have no idea. But I saw them on Twitter. Mostly, I saw the announcement of this roster because Pavan had joined as new head coach, I think. And I was like, wow, is he really going to some like weird unknown organization? Then I looked at the team that they had signed, and they're actually going to be a good team. They've got a bunch of the players that had previously played on Cloud9 Korea, and it looks like a fairly decent roster. Like they've got Harry, the Cypher player that's they've got a bunch of former T1 players and one Cloud9 as well. So,
But unrelated to all this, by the way, I'm going to link the BearClaw Esports website in the chat, and you need to take a look at it. It's actually pretty interesting. This org was founded in February of 2020.
that sounds about
So
right.
it's
During
very,
COVID.
very. I'll put it in the Valorant chat, I guess.
Okay,
but-
I'm looking forward to this now.
It's
But it's pretty interesting. The start when you get to the home screen. I love the graphic. But it's actually pretty interesting because it's super young and it's apparently was founded by a woman named Harley Parks, and she's the youngest female professional owner in esports. So it's a pretty interesting org overall. Like just
That's
from
quite cool.
a base glance at it, but it's super young.
It's not a
Extremely.
Korean org. Is it a Korean org?
Doesn't seem to be an org. I mean, they're in Call of Duty. Call of Duty is like
is
the most
weird.
anti-Korean game
Yeah,
ever.
yeah.
That game. I don't think. And looking at the design, I don't think this is a Korean org at all.
This is
So-
an interesting
That is so
move,
weird.
though.
I didn't know
And
that.
I think I read something about Riot putting in like stimulus packages essentially for organizations that wanted to invest in the Korean esports side of Valorant.
Oh, I saw
Did you
some
see
rumor
something like
about that,
this?
but I don't know what the details were at all. So
Yeah.
was it even real?
I don't know. I read it, and I don't know if it's real. I have no idea if it's real or not. But I saw somewhere, whether it's a rumor or if it's absolute bullshit, but I'm going to run with it anyway. Riot apparently are kind of just investing in the Korean esports side of things.
Right.
With just like, despite the fact that the viewership's not there, they are really kind of keen, at least for the year of 2021, to make sure that Valorant esports succeeds in Korea as a region. Because it's a good look, right? I mean, Korea has always been this dominant region in the biggest esports in the world, which is League of Legends. They want the same in Valorant, and so far their early moves have kind of hampered it. Yes. So maybe this is one of those moves where a savvy business owner, they've like got an esports org in Call of Duty. There's a couple of esports orgs that I do respect because they make intelligent business decisions. This seems like an intelligent move if you're being literally almost like paid to invest into the scene. Where it could just come back. There's another org that they don't do this, but they invest in fighting games. What is it called?
Panda Global.
Yeah, Panda Global.
Yeah.
That's another org that's really smart about the way.
I've never heard of them.
Because they're
You
only
never heard of
really in
Panda
fighting
Global?
games.
They're pretty
They've got
big
a
in fighting games.
Billion
Yeah.
million followers.
Yeah, they've got
And
like a
sponsored
really,
by Geico.
really good social media
Huh.
engagement. Like this is an org that's an esports org that's I don't think they've got much outside investment, but they're just really intelligent about the way that they've operated in esports.
Right.
Because they're in games where you don't need whole rosters of players.
You just need a single person.
You just need like a single player in a fighting game, but they pick up multiple players because they're a really popular team. And I mean they're all sponsors and everything else. Yeah.
Huh.
It's
Wait, are they wearing Team Liquid jerseys?
it's the Panda.
No, that's the Panda.
That's Team
That's
Panda
Panda.
jerseys.
Yeah.
They look exactly like Team Liquid jerseys.
I mean similar color schemes.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Identical, except with a panda instead of a horse.
Yeah.
Is how I would describe them.
Could be. Yeah.
I mean,
could be.
they're
Could
black
be.
and white, while Liquid is blue and white, though.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
black.
Liquid was black and
It's
white. as well.
it's literally the colors of a panda.
Yeah,
Anyway,
true,
we're
true.
getting off track here.
Anyway, the BearClaw-
roster is
BearClaw Gaming team. It's got two former T1 players. It's
Yeah.
got Harry and 10X, who are good. I thought that someone would sign Anax, who was their Jett player. I thought he was pretty good, but apparently not. But Harry and 10X are really good players as well. They've got Buzz, who was formerly on Cloud9 Korea. And then they've got two players that I am totally unfamiliar with because I didn't delve that far down into the Korean scene. What they called Intro and Ghana or something. I think I might have messed up that last guy's name. But yeah, this team could do something. It's hard to know because I don't know how good these final two players are. But if those two players are really good, then this could be a team that's able to challenge like your TNLs and possibly Vision Strikers. It's not a superstar team, but it's like a solid, solid Korean team, at least by the look of it. And it's got some of the former kind of refugees from the Western orgs choosing not to invest in Korea.
Uh-huh. It's intriguing. I want the Valorant esports scene in Korea to actually do well. So I'm pleased to see that a lot of these former players, and they're still essentially creating this melting pot where I suppose they're trying to form a team that can actually dethrone Vision Strikers right now from the top spot.
45 wins in a row, by the way.
Yeah, it's a scene I want to see. I want to see succeed.
I think we can get
for
it.
reasons I've
You
already-
think we could get a little
Plat
Riot
Chat.
stimulus? Get a Plat
A
Chat?
little Plat Chat team going on.
Oh, that would be pretty cool.
I'll look into it.
You could be
Listen.
the head coach in Wyatt. You could start your head coach career.
Nice.
Perfect.
I'll be listen. I've said this many times on the Overwatch podcast, but if I was a coach, I'd be a fucking phenomenal coach. I'd get the boys around, give them little back rubs, get the bananas going around, and like make sure you're keeping your energy up, handing out the bananas to everybody. Let's go. I'd be the hype man behind us,
Yeah.
I'd get some brains. What'd you say, Avast?
Sound like a trainer.
yeah, pretty much. And I'd surround myself with brains, with real intelligent motherfuckers, and I get them to just train up the team. They'd be the strategy, and I would be the brawn and the charismatic. Like, let's fucking go, boys. Go in there, demolish them, eat your bananas. Let's fucking go. And we would absolutely tear up the international circuit.
Nice. Yeah, you're giving them confidence. Confidence
Exactly.
is key.
Yeah, confidence is key to any success. That's the one thing I've seen that's noticed that's missing in esports.
Confidence?
Me.
Oh.
In every team.
Okay.
Every team's missing me.
Turn there. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. There's not really much else to say other than nice to see that these players are finding homes. Nice to see that the Korean scene is still kind of like chugging along, still trying to create these super teams to try and compete with the with Vision Strikers, super teams, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can shift the conversation along talking about the NSG Gamers Winter Championship, though, the 25 grand tournament.
Yeah, that's coming up. There's
which
some big
is-
teams in it.
Yeah, it's
This
in
is-
2 days.
This is in 2 days' time. It's like the first big tournament. We just had the 10K complexity tournament, but that's like a tier 2 kind of NA thing that
Yeah.
we're not really going to be covering. Also, a lot of us has been moving, so we haven't been getting an opportunity to watch it too much. But outside of that fact, this is the first real big tournament that we're going to be seeing just before the kind of Challenger Series really kicks off. Now, what teams are actually invested into this?
I mean, there's some
involved?
good teams.
Yeah.
Cloud9, Envy, Sentinels.
I mean, Sentinels are the clear favorites for this, right?
Yeah, unless
With no 100 Thieves involved.
I think there's a couple open spots.
Oh, is there?
I won't say that it's pretty. No, I think they've decided. They've decided a lot. Most of all the teams there, I think, that's the list. I believe is this final list, and this is actually interesting because, to me at least, because C9, we haven't seen C9 play since their moves, right? We haven't seen them play really at all. They didn't play in this last
They
year.
played in JBL, right? But
yeah, we saw the them lose 3 BO1s, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah, this is going to be the first opportunity to really see that roster. And that was like, we'll shoot in some bail. That was like right after they started playing with Leaf.
Immediately after. I don't think they even knew what role Leaf was supposed to be on. In each of the BO3s, Leaf was on a different role, I think. I mean, it's ludicrous.
Yeah,
Sentinel finals when I look at this, but...
Yeah, so this is a good opportunity to see what the new Cloud9 roster is made of. And then you have Envy, who I'm interested in seeing how they perform as well. I mean, this is a good opportunity to show that they aren't just lost in the sauce, really. I mean, these are all teams that Envy should presumably be making the grand finals in this tournament.
Yes. Yeah. Anything other than a grand finals appearance for Envy would be a continued downward spiral for them. Because who's their competition to make grand finals? I mean, as long as they don't meet Sentinels in the bracket, who are they losing to? C9?
Cloud9, if Cloud9's really good.
Exet, who just won the...
Exet just won the complexity tournament.
Yeah, they look really good.
Velocity and Renegades, and they look pretty... And built by gamers, they beat NRG, and the Dignitas lost to Equinox.
I mean, I can tell from watching that tournament, it was absolute chaos. There are so many roster moves in the Tier 2 of NA, and there are so many new players that are just insane. Like the new Equinox roster, I mean, they made one swap. They have a new player on their team, Tex, who was popping the fuck off in the Complexity 10K. I mean, he literally top fragged every single game. I'm not kidding. Top fragged all of them, except for maybe the game they lost.
No, I think he. Let me see. I think he top fragged. Yeah, he did. He top fragged both those. He was
ridiculous. I thought Equinox were gonna even make it deeper, and then Luminosity have made a couple of roster swaps as well. They were looking really good. Renegades were looking. Renegades. If there was a team that was lost in the sauce, they looked to be absolutely drenched, just sauce everywhere. couldn't make left and right. They needed some help. So I'm interested to see how they do as well, since they made the first strike quarterfinals, but then, could you actually bring the team list up again, Kurt? There's
my interest in this event, though, is also going to be seeing where these teams that we have a lot of questions about, Cloud9, Envy, how they are going to be measuring up against the kind of top of tier 2 right now, which is Exet, essentially, in my mind. Exet teams who just competed in the complexity tournament and seem to look good. Where are these teams going to be stacking up against the top of tier 2?
Well, because the thing is, though, you're missing a bunch of the in-between teams.
Yeah,
there's no T1, there's no FaZe, okay, Cloud9 were originally better than those guys, but I think it would be unreasonable to rate them above T1 and FaZe at the moment, considering that it's a new addition to the roster. They've had to swap some roles around. So really, there's when you look at the invited teams here, there's a massive gap in theory between Sentinels, Envy, and then the next best,
C9,
which is
Dignitas. I think I would go C9 then Dig.
Oh no, I can't put Dig there. You just can't. I can't do it.
Well, I mean, losing I wouldn't put. I guess that's not fair to put Dig. I guess I'd say of invited teams. Dig is definitely not in the top list of teams here. I would
I didn't mean invited. I kind of meant all of the teams that are being involved. I used invited incorrectly.
Andbox and Space Station Gaming are both there, and I'm very big on both.
They didn't do well recently, though.
You have aside from the top 3 teams in this, I think you're just looking at all teams that are just clawing to get into the top 10 of NA.
Yeah,
they're all reasonably in that 11th to 20th spots in NA, and they're all incredibly close. I don't know. It feels like at any given moment, I mean, just even looking at the teams we have on screen here, BBG, Space Station, NRG, Andbox, Moon Raccoons. I mean, who are winning any of those games if you match up any of them against each other? I mean, how can you really confidently say one team is going to beat the other? And then even when you go up, LG they were looking insane. I mean, still, Thief is just ridiculous. Protoss. I mean, that grouping of teams, those 12 teams, 12 or so teams in this tournament are all wildly close. And I think that almost any of them reasonably have upset potential against absolutely C9, but even Envy too.
I mean, that would be very unfortunate. I think if Envy do get upset by one of the lower level teams, it's
rough.
Understandable, but it's the continuation of an incredibly underwhelming end to 2020. It's like their downward spiral, not downward spiral, I suppose, but their flump out of existence at the end of 2020 is just going to continue into 2021 if they don't put together genuinely a grand finals performance in this. Even if they go out in the semis to C9 or an Exeter or a Dignitas, that is going to be an underperformance compared to your expectations for Envy before First Strike, or even halfway through First Strike, like at the end of the qualifiers. You're still thinking of Envy as a top 3 team in NA. So the absolute flumping that occurred across, what was it, November and December?
Yeah, it's just the past 2 months, or 1 month really. It was just the last month of 2020. They just slipped on the banana peel.
I think this tournament is the only team that this tournament is mega important for is Envy. You could argue that it's also important for Cloud9 with their new player to get back into the groove and Dignitas to find their form again. But Envy are on the verge of becoming irrelevant. Like, actually, when we're talking about tier 1 teams, Envy have gone from being like a lock in the top 4 before First Strike and through First Strike to being actually irrelevant when we talk about top 5, the actual tier 1 teams. This is the tournament for them to get their confidence back and get back in the groove. I think either is possible. I genuinely think either is possible. They could go right back to how they were, or they could continue downwards. There's no way of knowing.
Avast, I want to give you time.
I feel like that's a little bit of I feel like it's maybe irrelevant might be a kind of a harsh word for Envy, considering like I don't even think they would still like, it's not like they're ever worried about exiting. Like, irrelevant to me would be like exiting top 8 type of scenario, you know? And you think Envy's on the way to exit top 8?
If they don't make grand finals here, it means that they've lost to a Dig, an Exet, a C9. Now, outside of C9, who you have to give a pass because you don't really know where the hell they're going to rank, none of the other teams here, other than Sentinels, are in the top 8 in North America.
Yeah,
so they would de facto be losing to a non-top 8 team in NA and continuing that trend. I don't think it's likely of us, but I think that if that does happen to them, that would be a devastating blow. Like, that actually does imply they're on their way to being worried about dropping outside of the top 8, which is unbelievable. That's a huge drop off.
Yeah, that I too agree with. If they are not facing up against Sentinels in the grand finals, then I think it's fair to start being like, is Envy even a top 8 squad anymore? But also, I feel like this is a really good start to sort of see like some of these tier 2 squads. I mean, especially with Immortals making roster changes and things like that, like there's some chance that we see a little bit of shuffling with all the tournaments coming up anyways. So we might have to reformulate like what is top 8 as we move into the year anyways, right? And this could just be the start. But I do agree that if Envy's not facing off against Sentinels in grand finals, then we have entered some sort of inverse twilight zone and it's not good. It's not
unless they lose to C9. I'll still give them a pass if they lose to C9 if C9 look excellent, because I think that's still, I don't think that's likely. I think C9 are probably not going to look that great, but if they do look incredible, then fair enough if Envy lose to them. But outside of that,
I think there is mad upset potential for almost, half the teams in this tournament to beat Envy. Absolutely beat Cloud9, even more likely. All these teams have at least one, if not 2, really sick players on them. Like, could be on a tier 1 team players at this point, I think. Like, you could reasonably, even just looking at the list below the top 4, if you're looking at Equinox, like Mina, Tex, both look ridiculous. Obviously on LG, we've been singing a Protoss praises since
Waffle Man.
We've been singing Waffle Man's praises for months. Beef is ridiculous as well. Yeah. On Exet, Pure R looks amazing. Wifo, I think, has been really good on the Sentinel as well. If you just go down this list, there are so many amazing players on these teams. Every team in the tier 2 now has uncovered at least one diamond that they've got on their roster now. Obviously, we know the players that are good on Moon Raccoons have been around for a while. Actually, I wonder who Moon Raccoons are going to play with us at 5th. That's an interesting question. Yeah. Since Profi's no longer with them. Andbox have Android.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Seeing more NRG will be interesting, though they've been, kind of whatever up until this point.
Interesting as well. This tournament takes place over 4 days, I think.
Yeah.
So you've got the group stages presumably for the first 2 days, maybe even the first 3, and then just the playoffs on the final day. Sure. I don't know how they're actually scheduling it, but a lot of matches. And what you see with tournaments like this, at least when it's not short form, is that there's always those adaptations over time. As more and more games get played, you see that some teams get better, and the sort of counter-stratting that takes place in North America especially. We've got a really interesting tournament ahead of us, I think.
Definitely. It's a great precursor to learning who the dangerous teams are coming into the first challenges. Because we know for the most part who the elite are, but this is really a good show of who the dangerous teams are. Who are the upset teams? Who's going to come in and take the games off the big North American teams? And end up causing like a Renegades over Cloud9 upset again. Because you know that there are going to be upsets like that in every single tournament that happens in 2021 across all regions. There will be at least one major upset in each one. It's inevitable. And these are the kind of tournaments where you see who the teams with teeth in Tier 2 really are.
Yeah, expect wild results in this tournament,
especially if Yoru is in. Especially if Yoru is in.
Yeah, I mean, it would be ridiculous. I mean, even then, there are a couple more teams at the bottom, but like even BBG now, don't they have a new player as well? They've been playing with Critical, the blatant cheater Critical. They've been playing, but Critical has been ridiculous. Even on like rules, like he's playing Omen and he is just popping off.
Yeah.
Will has looked really good on Raze. The teams in the Tier 2 now, I'm really serious. All of them have one, if not two players.
They're bubble ready to explode. They're like a little.
They really are. They could just get into Tier 1 teams. Like, if hypothetically, like if NV just can't recover from slipping on the banana peel, they can't stand back up, and they need to make a replacement. Like this, I'm not saying they should do this, but hypothetically, like let's say they got rid of food. There's like 10 players in this tournament they could pick up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous, man.
Time for the most important topic of all time that's ever existed in any podcast format ever.
I'm excited to see it in person.
For years and years and years, people have been talking about this award for the longest time. They've been wondering, when is it coming? When is it coming? I can see you all typing in the chat right now. You're saying, when is Wyatt's weekly award? Well, here it is. Kurt, please run the tape.
Dude, where's my res? Oh, hey. Didn't see you there. That's Wyatt's weekly award.
How?
Yeah. No, this one's dead center on the table. Dead center.
Like a very, you're sort of a Christopher Nolan type of move there. That's like Tenet, you know. We just got temporal pincered by that particular award. If you had noticed that earlier in the episode, you would have known that was coming, but you did not.
This week, the weekly award. It's going to go to Texas.
Texas! The state of Texas.
Yep. This week, the weekly award is going to go to the state of Texas.
Okay. All right.
And
wonderful.
Yeah, and it's not just because it houses one Connor Avast Prince, the lovely man, but also it's so far. I've liked it here quite a bit.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed Texas quite a bit.
You've been here for 3 days.
I've been here for 3 days, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah, I've never lived in the South or spent like significant time here. 3 days, by the way. but so far, I've enjoyed it. I feel as though I've been welcomed in such a friendly way, you know?
Yeah.
See, you guys keep saying that. I haven't interacted with a single human being outside of you lot, so I don't know. Are people welcoming?
Yes.
The only person I know from
welcoming,
I know from Texas is Avast, and he's not welcoming. He's mocking.
That's true. I'm like a cloying sickness in your nostrils.
Are you from Texas?
Yeah, I've lived in like Dallas area my whole life.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeehaw.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
you don't sound very Texan.
Me because they're from Arkansas. So we're a very southern family.
Wow.
Yeah,
I concur with your Wyatt's Weekly Award. I think Texas deserves it. It's been very nice, actually. Everyone I've interacted with, I got a coffee this morning, and the bloke was very chilled out, very friendly. There was no rush. It felt the complete antithesis of LA, where you go to LA and the guy's like, "What do you want?" "Yep, okay," and it's like it's quite rushy almost in a way. But not rushy, like they just don't give a fuck.
Yeah, you're comparing a city of like 13 million to a city of 2. I don't know what the exact population numbers
Sure,
are.
but what I'm
I mean,
saying is, it's just low key, you know. It's like the guy was like, "What do you want, friend?"
yeah. When I lived in the countryside, it was more low key than New York.
Like, if they're a 13 million person city, does that mean that I don't think that coffee shop would then serve proportionally more people necessarily inherently than the 2 million?
Yeah,
city, right?
I mean, it wouldn't if it was tucked away down an alley, but in most places it
So
would.
what I'll say is, I'll say this: that in LA, of my 3 years living there, I've definitely felt like people just weren't as friendly. They're quite cold, you know, in a way. But it's not cold as in like the good way, which is in the UK. You know, in the UK, you won't talk to strangers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going down the street, you don't say hello to strangers. But if you get in a conversation with a stranger, you're generally going to be quite friendly with them.
Right.
Because you know, something's happened in UK culture. It's like, oh, you know, making a little comment about it on the bus or something, you know. But in LA, you don't have the UK culture. You don't. It's just cold, and it's just quite. If this stranger can't do anything for me, then I don't want anything to do with them. Yeah, how many times have you been to a bar? For me, it was a lot. Not obviously not this year, but in previous years, when I went to a bar, you meet a random person, you tell them you work in like the entertainment industry, and next thing you know, they're trying to give you a card.
That didn't happen to me because I don't look like a CEO.
When I first moved to LA, the amount of fucking Uber rides I got into and the amount of business cards I received from musicians and actors.
Maybe that's because you say, I work in the entertainment industry.
I never told them I worked in the entertainment industry. They would just see me getting picked up from the studio. And they were like, oh, can I give you my card?
Oh,
it's
my
like,
God.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
I never had those interactions though because I'm a friendly human being, so they just interact with me as a.
I mean, I'm fucking friendly, Josh. Fuck you. All right? I'm friendly.
Because I got cards too. When I got picked up from 2018, when I had spent a long, hard day of doing nothing in 2018 in the studio, a long, hard day of sitting on the bench in Boston, I would come out and I looked like a little dumpling at the time. You know, I didn't look like someone that was important at all. And they would still, I would got cards.
You got cards as well?
Maybe you two are getting business cards because you're delightful little dumplings and they want to take you out somewhere later on. Maybe they're hitting on you instead.
This card isn't like, hey, let's go get dinner and a movie.
Why not? It's got their number on it.
I need to be referred so I can get my foot into the door of the studio you just exited.
Yeah, it's purely like I've just picked up somebody from the studio. Here's Avast.
There it is, 2018.
2018.
Look at him. That's. I would give my business card to that prime little.
Why
twink.
would they give me? Yeah, because I was an absolute. I was an absolute twink back in 2018. So why would they give me business cards as well? I don't know. The point is, so far in Texas, it's been a completely different vibe, at least for every single person I've interacted with. It's always been very friendly, very, how's it going? You know, it's not like...
Tell them you work in the entertainment industry. See how they react.
Not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
Hello, can I have my coffee? I also work in the entertainment industry.
But I also never said... Okay, I never told anyone I work in the entertainment industry. It's very conceited.
I work in the movies.
I work in the pictures. I agree with you, Wyatt. I think this is a good weekly award. The state of Texas, it's been pretty nice so far. Been pretty welcoming. People as well have been coming into my stream chat being like, "You're finally in Texas, huh? Welcome to Texas, best state in the world." I mean, Texans love it when people visit their state.
They do.
I've realized as well.
They do.
Maybe not Avast, but I always thought Avast was just like it came from another place, not Texas.
The moon.
The moon. No, I feel like, you know, you guys haven't seen me switch into Southerner mode though, because like if you ever actually go with me out to a restaurant, eventually whenever that happens again, or a bar, I'm essentially conditioned via my parents to say sir and ma'am to everybody. And you haven't seen me do that yet. But if we ever go somewhere in the South, you'll see me. It's just like a switch.
Wow.
Like
You say
on a little
sir.
Southern charm.
Sir and ma'am.
To who? To the waiters?
people, if you're talking to like a waiter or like the waitress, or if you're talking to the person at the register or the bar,
Yeah.
you know, the barkeep, like you just instinctively, or just a regular person, even though they're like around my same age, if it's like a more formal setting, I just swap it to sir and ma'am.
What happens if you get like the people that call you sir and then you're sirring back to them?
I mean,
and then you're just two sirs talking to each other.
We just hit a resonant sir frequency and we just vibrate.
Sir,
It's a respect thing though, right? It's a respect thing.
Yeah, it is. It's
Certain amount,
Yeah,
madam.
many things are a respect thing. People bow to each other in other cultures, but it would be weird if you started going around bowing to everybody, wouldn't it? That would
Sure.
be a respect thing, but it would still be fucking weird.
Hey, it's just a culture thing. Texas has culture, and LA it doesn't. and people are nice here, and that's part of the culture.
Yeah.
That's it. It's great.
I got in an Uber to go to Target to pick up some bedding the other day. Like when I first touched down, essentially. And I was saying to my driver, like, I moved here from Cali, and he's like, oh, there's a lot of people moving here from Cali these days. And he's saying he hopes that the Californians don't bring their attitude with them, because he's like, I quite like it living here. You know, I don't want him to interact, because he's got his son who also lives in Los Angeles. And also, I don't think it's fair to say that all Californians are like people who live in Los Angeles, because it is actually two distinct different things.
It's also only people who are trying to make it in Los Angeles that act like
which
that.
is a lot of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
but
either,
it's
you're either
it's
trying
not-
to make it or you're being crushed by wealth disparity.
Yeah.
Those are your. That's.
It's funny because it's true.
That's so many people though. I'm in a good mood while being crushed by the economy.
And we talk about them and how we're in entertainment and we're better than you. But now so we're not better than you, so it's okay.
Yeah. Just don't be a twat to people.
Yeah, just don't be a cock. That's essentially the way it works. And then, yeah, just be nice to people.
I met a lot of lovely people in California. I don't know who you guys were interacting with.
I did meet a lot of lovely people, honestly, as well. The one thing I was upset about moving away from California was all the very nice, genuine people that we left behind.
You've just molded for 7 minutes about all the fake people that you've left behind.
No. But I'm saying like general
that there was a mixture of
strangers.
both.
But
Right.
what made the friends I made in California special was that they were quite genuine in a sea.
And they stood
of,
out.
Yeah, they stood out in a sea of just fakery. You know, they just stood out. You know, that's the one thing I am a little bit sad about.
Holden Caulfield type of vibes.
Bren was scouting his way through the entertainment industry looking for the pretenders.
I wouldn't say scouting.
Everyone, I'm in the entertainment business. Are you fake? Or are you fake?
Entertainment business.
I'm in the
Show
business of
business.
entertaining.
I am ending this episode. So
Good idea.
thanks for watching Plat Chat VALORANT episode 27. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. What do you want to do? What do you want to say?
The only other thing I wanted to say was, cheeky little preview, we're going to be having guests on every week from now on, or at least...
Trying to have them on
Yeah,
every
trying
week.
to have them on. We might not schedule them every single week, but we have got Dapper on. The episode will air probably, I don't know, Wednesday or
Wednesday,
something.
probably.
Something like that. But yeah, keep an eye out for it. Make sure you hit the subscribe and hit the fucking bell. Pound the bell. Otherwise, Dapper will come for you with his white claws.
Yeah. And white claws hurt when you have them thrown at you.
Yeah.
Trust me. I've had it happen. It's not a pain. It's a painful experience. What episode 27? Yeah. Thanks for watching. Do what Josh said. Pound the bell. Make sure you leave a comment. What did I say at the start? Leave a comment on something. I can't remember what I said for you to comment on.
But whatever it was, comment on it.
I don't think you did.
Just okay. Well, just leave a comment because it helps with engagements and it gets us more money.
You're real or fake in the comments below.
Yeah. Comment if you're a real one. comment if you're a real one. All right. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you on Wednesday for the Dapper interview. See you then. Bye bye.